What's up? What's up? What's up? Jordan Sheridan, not live on a Monday, rainy, cloudy in New York City. But I am sunny and energized. I was out most of last week recovering from back surgery. I am still recovering from back surgery. I'm a little sore today because a friend of mine was in town from California this weekend, so I hung out with him. And you're not supposed to do too much walking after back surgery. You're supposed to, walk a little bit, but not overdo it. And I overdid it. So I'm a little sore. So I'm going to try to go as long as I can today without making myself more stiff. But on a positive note, because a lot of you have been sending kind messages and sending well wishes, I have way less numbness in my foot. If you remember, before this latest back surgery, I had, why is that white thing on my shirt? I had significant numbness in my left foot due to my sciatic nerve being compressed by my herniated disc. So the surgery so far, I have probably at this point 85% feeling back in my foot. So now it's just my toe that's a little numb. So hopefully with physical therapy and taking it a little more easy, give the nerve time to kind of regroup, I'll get full feeling back. So that's awesome. Thank you to Jen, who's been filling in for me last week. And definitely, if you want to give her a leftover super chat, you could do it right now. This is a super chat, folks. And we don't really push super chat as much as we should. So this is a super chat. It's one of the major ways we are able to add in additional revenue. Your super chat contributions to this non-live stream is extra revenue we need. We have a lot of goals, which I'm going to get into this afternoon. And one of those goals is ultimately to be able to hire another reporter. That is big on our list, but need the money to do it. And that's coming from you rather than plutocrats, oligarchs, and the very, very individuals and corporations and politicians destroying this once great country, even though it really was never that great. It's always been kind of a gilded age. So, let me turn my phone off. Remember, you have a checklist. I want you to smash the like button into smithereens. Smash that like button like it's Joe Biden telling you to eat your broccoli and he is the most electable to defeat Donald Trump. Smash it like it's somebody giving you spoilers for Game of Thrones when you have not watched the Game of Thrones second to last episode. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, holy cow, was that episode amazing last night. Smash it like it's John Bolton coming to your Thanksgiving dinner and explaining why we need to go to war with Antarctica. Become a Status Coup member. Statuscoup.com/join. That's statuscoup.com/join. I'm excited to tell you. Well, I'm gonna wait till later for that. So I'll wait till later on that one, till we have a couple more viewers and a little bit later. But you can become a Status Coup member as low as $5 a month. You can become a Status Coup member as low as $10 a month. You can become a Status Coup member as low as $20 a month, or $179 annually. You know the drill. There's the list. We'll talk about it a little bit more in a bit. Follow us at Status Coup. I'm at Jordan Sheridan on the Twitter. And hopefully, if you haven't yet, go to our podcast. That's just type in Status Coup podcast. Make it easier for yourself on Google. And rate us 5 stars and leave a review. The podcasts are these non-live streams made into podcasts, as well as my interviews, which I'm going to have an announcement on someone I'm interviewing tomorrow. I think you're going to be excited on who I'm interviewing tomorrow. And join our email list. That is our statuscoup.com. And when you go to statuscoup.com, you will see a little box to enter your email. That's a big way we grow. And you know how I've been saying non-live stream? If you're new here, we have been under a 90-day ban, a 90-day live stream ban since the end of February. Well, dun, 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 13 days left. Hashtag free status coup. I ain't kidding. Start it. Hashtag free status coup. We have 13 days left till this live stream ban will lift. I say that kind of tentatively because you never know with YouTube shenanigans. I do have a screenshot of somebody from YouTube saying it will be lifted on the 90th day. And May 25th is the 90th day of this live stream ban that we've been in the middle of, thanks to CNN, who filed a copyright violation against this channel at the end of February, which I don't want to re-explain the whole thing. You know the drill. It was BS. We didn't violate copyright, but of course, YouTube sided with CNN, and as such, I've had to, and Jen has had to. We have to take the extra step of recording a full hour, sometimes hour and a half, video, and then air it as a premiere, so we could have the live chat, super chat function. But 13 days. Ooh, that's not what I want. 13 days, the live stream ban is up. So that's super, super exciting, and I hope you will join us. I don't know how long I'm going to go because honestly, I just had back surgery, but the ban is supposed to lift on May 25th, which means Sunday, May 26th, we will have a super duper duper marathon live stream chat. Sunday, noon Eastern, May 26th. Cancel your plans. Noon Eastern. If you recall, I was doing the marathon Sundays. We're going to return to that Sunday, May 26th. Again, it's not going to be like 8 hours like I did back in the day because I just had back surgery. I can't sit that long. We'll do a couple hours and it will be fun. We'll be able to go live again because that's what I've been missing. It's not the same where I can't respond to your comments, questions, super chats in real time. So that's what I'm excited about because that's a big part of what I do, what Jen does, and what we want to do here. We want to not just talk to you, talk at you. We want to talk with you and get information to you, and also you teach me and us things live as well. So I want to get right into it. Remember to smash the like button if you haven't. We've had an extra suppression special lately where YouTube is throttling this channel even more. So it's really, really important that you press the like button. Also, share. So you press like, the thumbs up. Also, press the share button. Share it on your Twitter, on your Facebook, on your LinkedIn, on whatever. We got to get this out. Get it out as much as you can, because YouTube's not making it easy to find when we are live or even when we publish videos and post videos. So, a lot going on today. I have a story about Bernie Sanders. Finally, Bernie Sanders publicly called out the polling. If you remember, we broke the story a few weeks ago that CNN's poll showing Joe Biden like crushing Bernie by like 24 points, I think it was. Yeah, Joe Biden was crushing Bernie by 24 points because they basically sampled no one under 40 and oversampled a lot of people over 50. But you never hear that in the discussion about the polls, because as I always tell you, it's not about information. It's about setting a narrative. Same way they set the narrative about superdelegates in 2016. There's no context. We don't need to tell viewers that these polls showing Joe Biden's up by 20, 25 points are basically over-polling age 50 and older. No offense, because we got a lot of viewers age 50 and older. There's definitely a lot of progressives age 50 and older. But by the data, by the trends in America, or the United Corporations of America, as I like to call it, 50 and older are majority establishment voters. And they tend to vote for the Hillary Clintons of the world, the Barack Obamas of the world, the Joe Bidens of the world. So when you undersample age under 50, specifically under 40, which is Bernie Sanders' strength by the numbers, 2016 and now, and you oversample over 50, well, gee, what do you know? Joe Biden's crushing in all the polls. And even if they did equal distribution, he might be beating Bernie Sanders. He was the former vice president. He has, so far in his campaign, like, not even hugged, like, chained himself. Well, bad word. He has straddled Barack Obama and the image of the Obama presidency for dear life, because he's trying to cover up for his, frankly, I don't know what other words you would say, and I'm going to show you more today, racist past, both rhetorically, as well as policy. So he is probably up, but it's a long way to Iowa, folks, and it's a long way to New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, California, and Super Tuesday. So he might be up, but I don't think he's up by 25 points, and Bernie finally has publicly said that. We're also going to talk about, I was in pain yesterday, icing my back, so I had CNN on in the afternoon, and of course, they did a segment on Medicare For All, like discussing whether Medicare For All is feasible, with a lobbyist who lobbies for the healthcare insurance companies, with a PR director whose firm basically, they're not lobbyists, but they work for big banks and corporate clients that are against Medicare For All, love themselves to big banks. Did CNN disclose this in their fair and neutral segment about whether Medicare For All is possible? We'll see. And there's more in As the Joe Turns. Joe Biden. Every day is another thing. So remember, press the like button if you haven't pressed that like button yet. Bernie Sanders went on with the Reverend Al Sharpton on MSNBC the other day, which I think is a good thing. Like, Bernie has to speak directly to the black community. Sharpton is pretty controversial in the black community. A lot of Black Lives Matter and progressive black activists don't like Al Sharpton, but older black people, specifically older women that I have met, like Al Sharpton. So, Bernie Sanders trying to reach as many African Americans as he can, because he cannot get crushed in South Carolina again. So here was the takeaway, the standout moment from the interview he did with Al Sharpton, where Bernie's finally speaking out on what Status Quo has been reporting for weeks.
Even with all that, he has a unique challenge this time around. In nearly every poll, he's near the top of the field of more than 20 Democratic candidates. Yet in nearly every early poll, he's trailing former Vice President Joe Biden. And now in Sanders' neighboring state of New Hampshire, polling shows Mr. Biden with a 2-to-1 advantage over the senator. And Mr. Biden went even further this week, publicly predicting a short primary race. Joining me now on Politics Nation, Bernie Sanders. Thank you for joining us, Senator.
Good to be with you, Al.
But, Senator, I want to get to your legislation that you and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez has proposed. But I have to ask you, with New Hampshire's polling saying your neighboring state that Joe Biden is 2-to-1 ahead, is there a point where you start going after Joe Biden? Will you confront him in the debates? Will you confront him to show the difference between Biden and Bernie?
Well, Al, if you look at that particular poll, they had 2/3 of the people that they reached out to were over the age of 50, and that's not the way the people in New Hampshire vote. I think it was a selection of older people, which is not accurate. I feel very good about the campaign. We have over 1 million volunteers.
Bernie! Boom! Knock him out! Boom! Look at Sharpton's face. What? You talking about math? What? Al Sharpton, I used to work at MSNBC, so I can say this lovingly. I was on the ground, I was in the newsroom. I mean, I didn't know at the time. It was just total propaganda. I figured it out, but not right away. So I was there. I worked the night shift. So I had to listen to Al Sharpton when he had a nightly show, ranting and raving at the top of his lungs. Frankly, he can't read a teleprompter for dear life. Then I had to listen to Chris Hardball Matthews. I mean, literally, it is migraine city listening to this day after day. I digress. So, Bernie Sanders, finally, and again, you know, I don't have any intel, and I'm not taking credit for it, but I did. After I did that segment on CNN, their poll is nothing but propaganda. I don't know what else to say. And remember, if you haven't hit the like button, press the like button. More people that press the like button, the more people that see it. So, you know, I think Bernie Sanders' campaign, at least in 2016, I recall, when I would push them, why aren't you speaking out about X or Y or Z, like election fraud or this and that? I would get back, well, you know, it's not going to make a difference, and they'll paint us as being sore losers. So I was afraid he's not going to do it again. He's not going to speak up against, I mean, the polling, honestly, the way they're fudging these polls and oversampling old people and undersampling young people, it's kind of like superdelegates and lumping superdelegates with the pledged delegates and throwing that on the screen. We know CNN did that and MSNBC and even the New York Times. They would show their audiences, oh, look, Hillary Clinton's up by 800 total delegates, but they would put in the superdelegates. So the polling is kind of, to me, the new superdelegates, because all of these polls that are considered Quinnipiac, CNN, Morning Consult, there's a lot of these polls that it's just kind of baked into the cake as established practice that, well, you know, we just go by the voting trends of America, and more older people vote than younger people, so they oversample older people. But it's a dishonest thing to then put out a poll, and these polls, we see it. If you are like me, I do it for a living, so I have CNN on and MSNBC on. Eventually, status quo is going to be the alternative during the day. I was saying to Jen the other day, like, I wish there was a progressive channel on all day so I didn't have to watch this crap. That's what we're trying to become. Become a member, statusquo.com/join. I digress. But I was afraid Bernie wasn't going to speak out on this because they are basically, it's not straight up lying, but it's straight up fudging when you make, because how it goes is the polls are released at like 6 or 7 a.m. Then the morning shows pick it up. And then it's a narrative. You see, the police are coming for these pollsters. They're tired of these pollsters fudging the numbers, oversampling old people, undersampling young people, and then making it seem like Bernie Sanders is yesterday news, and he's not going to win, and he should drop out so we could, you know, coalesce and solidify around someone like Joe Biden. So Bernie Sanders, for this specific poll that he called out on Al Sharpton's program, it's a New Hampshire poll, and it's Monmouth University. And this poll by Monmouth University found that Joe Biden was up in a field of 24 announced and potential candidates. Biden holds a clear lead with 36%. to Bernie Sanders 18%. So this Monmouth University poll found that Bernie Sanders is down by 18 points in New Hampshire, which he crushed Hillary Clinton in 2016. So does that make sense to you that Bernie Sanders would be down by 18 points in New Hampshire? He might be down a little bit at this point, but 18 points? Well, then you got to look into the numbers, which none of the news article I read, thehill.com, the Washington Post, CNN, that pick up these polls, not one mentions what I'm about to show you, and which Bernie Sanders called out. Here we go. Look at the age breakdown of this poll. And credit, I do have to give Monmouth University credit for at least putting it in there. I mean, it's not in the news articles, but if you actually Google Monmouth polling, you could find it. But they actually put it in the poll, the age breakdown, which CNN, for the most part, and a lot of other polls I've read, don't actually give you this detailed information. So at least credit to Monmouth for transparency. But when you look at the demographics, 15% polled are aged 18 to 34. Bernie Sanders' strongest demographic. 18% polled, 35 to 49. As Bernie Sanders' first 3 months in donors will show you, predominantly Bernie Sanders' top donor was under age 40. The first 3 months of this year, where he made $18.2 million, leading the pack in those first 3 months. So you got 15% age 18 to 34. You with me? You got 18% age 35 to 49. Ooh, well, what do you know? 33% were age 50 to 64. 34% age 65 and over. Well. Well, I will be honest. I did fail math in 11th grade. I had to redo it over summer school. But I could do this on the calculator. So let's do it quick, folks. We got 33 plus 34. What does that come out to? 33 plus 34. That's 67% of those polled were over the age of 50 in this New Hampshire poll. But the narrative, let me just find an article. New Hampshire, Joe Biden poll. The narrative, Business Insider. The latest 2020 primary polling has nothing but bad news for Bernie Sanders about the New Hampshire poll. Let's find the other ones. The Hill. Biden doubling up Sanders in New Hampshire. So, I mean, you're getting the point here. Does it say anything in here about 67% of those polled were over the age of 50? What do you think? What do you think? So, again, I want to be clear to our audience here. And I'm going to put the numbers up one more time so you have it. I understand that a lot of you are over the age of 50. So this isn't about whether there are no older progressives that support Bernie Sanders. There are indeed plenty of older progressives over the age of 50 that support Bernie Sanders. But I'm reporting to you data. I'm reporting to you the numbers and the trends. So it's not a knock on older progressives. There are older progressives. Bernie Sanders has a lot of older supporters. But the majority of those over the age of 50, by the history of the Democratic Party and the history of presidential politics, and congressional, by the way, tend to vote for establishment, more, center-right, moderate to right-wing Republican. I'm talking right-wing Democrats, Nancy Pelosi's of the world, Joe Biden's of the world, Dick Durbin's, Steny Hoyer's, Barack Obama. You get the point. Although Obama hoodwinked a lot of people under 40, including me, that he was a progressive when obviously he didn't legislate that way. So what you have here, this poll, I will call this poll what it is a lie. To say that Joe Biden is beating Bernie Sanders by 18 points in basically Bernie Sanders' backyard, New Hampshire is right next to Vermont, you are intentionally as a pollster, Monmouth, you are intentionally lying because you're not actually getting a true representation of support in New Hampshire. You're getting a representation of what you are looking for. You are looking for more older voters, and you are not looking for more younger voters. If you would have done a more equal distribution, where you have maybe 35% over 50, 34, 33%, under 40. Yeah, Joe Biden might be up a little bit, but he ain't going to be up 18 points. And this is why, again, I'm not a polling truther. I will acknowledge that I think Joe Biden is beating Bernie Sanders across the board in most of the polls. I don't think Joe Biden is beating Bernie Sanders by some polls 25 points. Other polls, I saw one poll that was almost 30 points. It just doesn't make sense. It does make sense that Joe Biden would be up. He just announced, so he has the post-announcement bump. And frankly, he's the former vice president, and he's hugging Barack Obama for dear life. Even though Obama didn't endorse him, Obama let him use, in one of his videos, Obama's voice, narrating how great Joe Biden is. I think that's going to come back to bite Obama in the ass later on. Oop! Demonetized, cursed again. Super chat. This is a super chat. If you're feeling super or even mildly okay, this is additional revenue Status Quo desperately needs to report in the field, to cover the stories no one else is covering, from Flint to, we were just in Seattle covering Amazon's economic oppression and treachery, which is creating a homeless epidemic. If you followed us, we were just in Detroit and Warren, Michigan, covering General Motors laying off 15,000 people. Obviously, you know we've been in Dallas covering the execution by a white police officer of Botham Jean. We've been in a lot of places the last year, and a lot of it's coming from you joining us. That's statusquo.com/join as a member. But also, we need that extra funding right here in the Super Chat so you could fund us to get out in the field. This is how we grow. We already passed 40,000 subscribers in a little over a year, but ongoing, whether it's Super Chat and, of course, as a member, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it always helps. So definitely, if you're feeling super, leave it in there. But I want to get to another point. Bernie Sanders actually speaking up on this is good. It's positive. But we need to hear more. I mean, he has a pretty professional campaign this time around. We need to see messaging on the fact that these polls are oversampling older people and undersampling young people. I mean, when you have story after story, segment after segment saying Joe Biden, I mean, why is Bernie even running? Can't even compete in his backyard of New Hampshire when, I mean, they're cooking the polls. I mean, this is cooking the polls to give you the answer that you want. When you poll, when 67% of those polled are over the age of 50, that's not a poll. That's a farce. That's not an actual statistical representation of how New Hampshire votes, which is what Bernie Sanders said. So then you have people criticizing me on the Twitter when I do segments like this saying, oh, the Bernie bros, now they don't believe math, now they don't believe data. No, I believe common sense. More young people voted in 2016 than ever before in this country. 2018 had record numbers of young people voting in the midterms. Midterms are generally where you see young voting totally deflate. And not a lot of young people vote in midterm elections. So you're seeing more and more young people vote. You're seeing more and more young people politically activated. You see news article after news article about how millennials are more into politics, and politics is a bigger... I read an article that politics and political preferences are more important to millennials than good sex. How about that? So you got more young people voting and more young people expected to vote, particularly for a candidate like Bernie Sanders or Tulsi Gabbard. But you have all these polls that are just polling the same way they've always polled, which is most of the sample size is landline. So you know many young people with a landline phone? I don't even know many old people with a landline phone anymore. And most of these polls generally get older people to answer them. Part of that is because maybe young people don't want to participate in the polls, but that's on the pollsters. If that's the case, where it's predominantly older people, then you need to have as like a blinking red light disclaimers at the top of your polls that, you know, this is not a great representation of young people. It takes people like me to actually not read the news articles, because most of these news articles don't even link to the actual poll, which is usually like a PDF. It takes actual journalists who want to look at actual context and who are they polling, how, and what is the age breakdown, to actually be able to report to you it's bullshit. They're cooking the data. They're fudging the numbers. They're finding not the actual representation of New Hampshire and a lot of these other states. They're finding what they want to find. They're creating the narrative that they want to put out there. So it's a good step in the right direction for Bernie Sanders to say something. I think he said it a little gingerly and should come out stronger and being like, listen, CNN, your network, MSNBC, should be basically pointing out, Reverend Al, that, this is an older demographic they're polling predominantly. It took me 2 seconds to do, 33% plus 34% equals 67% of those polled over the age 50. And Bernie could have explained, I do have older supporters, but we also have a huge movement of grassroots support among young people, which is not represented in this poll. So good step in the right direction. And I would hope to see more from Bernie Sanders about this. I would hope to see more from his campaign about this. It's not being a sore loser to speak out on deception. It's calling it like it is and keeping it real. And while I keep it real, press the like button, smash that like button. Just got to get some water. My Marco Rubio moment. All right. Remember, I want you to smash that like button. Smash it into smithereens. The more people that like this non-live stream, the more people that will see this non-live stream. So, from one deception, which is CNN and their polling, this wasn't CNN, excuse me, Monmouth University. I've been doing a lot of laying in bed because I just had back surgery. And if you came late to this, I'm healing pretty well. Little sore where they cut in, but my foot is feeling a lot better. I have more feeling in my foot. My foot was basically half numb for the last year because of the pressure on my sciatic nerve from a majorly huge herniated disc. So this latest surgery, I already have more feeling in my foot. So I'm super excited about that. So I'm laying in bed Sunday, and I was waiting for the NBA game to go on. I'm a big basketball fan. So I'm watching CNN, and I see a segment where the anchor plays a clip of Kamala Harris on with Jake Tapper. Which, by the way, isn't it kind of odd that CNN is flying Jake Tapper out to Oakland, California to interview Kamala Harris when she's polling at like 7 and 8%? Is that like, is she meriting that kind of featurey news coverage? Like, he flew out from New York to California to feature Kamala Harris. Has CNN not done enough for Kamala Harris? They gave her a town hall less than 24 hours after she announced. That town hall was more of a pillow party. It was such a smothering, disgusting, pathetic PR stunt. They didn't ask her one tough question, and basically it was a branding exercise to boost her up. And when she wasn't catching fire, then they tried Beto O'Rourke. When that didn't work, then they tried Mayor Pete Buttigieg. And, he's rising, but then their preferred candidate is Joe Biden. And I'm going to do something bigger on this down the road, but I'm pretty sure the establishment, how they want it, I think they want Biden, and I think they're going to push Kamala Harris as its vice president. You got Biden to satisfy the old. You got Kamala to play identity politics, and they're going to try to push the old, steady guard to defeat Donald Trump, Joe Biden, the Obama coalition with the future Kamala Harris, and that is going to be one nauseating duo. But that's what I think. We'll see what happens. We'll see if that comes to fruition. So I'm watching this, and Kamala Harris, Jake Tapper pressed her on. It seems like she's kind of switching on Medicare For All. In the original town hall that Kamala Harris had with CNN, she said, let's just get rid of it, talking about private insurance companies. And she moonwalked away from that within 24 hours of that town hall when her donors, who are all Hillary Clinton's donors, that's why I call her Clinton Hillary 2.0, when they reprimanded her. Then she moonwalked away and said, well, that's not what I meant. So she clarifies with Jake Tapper about, that's I didn't mean get rid of it completely, blah, 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 blah. There will still be supplemental insurance, yada, yada, yada. So after they played that clip, they had on a Democratic strategist. Always beware when you hear Democratic strategist and a Republican strategist. So I'm watching it and I'm just thinking to myself, and they had them on to react and then to explore the feasibility of whether Medicare for All will catch on and whether, the primary electorate will decide Medicare for All is feasible. So shockingly, the Democratic strategist didn't think so. Shockingly, the Republican strategist didn't think so. So then I Google relatively quickly, who's the Democratic strategist? Who's the Republican strategist? And what do you know? One's a lobbyist for the healthcare industry. The other one's a public relations director for a swampy DC PR firm whose clients are the big banks and all these corporate clients that love deregulation, don't want the big banks broken up. And the big banks, by the way, this is never talked about, but the big banks love the private health insurance company. Hate Medicare for All because the big banks are heavily invested in big pharma. It's all one big sloppy, corrupt, revolving door. And that's the police coming for them. That's the sirens. So let me play you this clip from this segment, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about who were these Democratic strategists who doesn't think Medicare for All is feasible, and the Republican strategists who just, it's a pipe dream. Here we go.
One has to get over the sticker shock, which is about a $32 trillion program over 10 years. So there's a cost issue. There's a disruption of coverage. And also, I think many Democrats recognize that Medicare for All is really a distraction. They know it's not going to be enacted. And that distracts them from dealing with the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, where we all can acknowledge there are problems and it needs to be shored up. So the serious Democrats are trying to figure out ways to stabilize that program, which, whether you like Obamacare or not, it did provide additional access to many people. So they should try to fix the program that they've already established. Because this Medicare for All, by the way, it will not eliminate private insurance. 35% of people in Medicare today get their Medicare through Medicare Advantage, a private health care option. And of the 65% in fee-for-service Medicare, 40% of them have Medigap or supplemental plans. It's private insurance to pay for what Medicare does not. So I think Democrats are going down the wrong path on Medicare for All.
And similarly, this is what a former Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp, said when she penned an op-ed urging, Democrats not to back Medicare for All and instead, build up the Affordable Care Act. She wrote specifically, when I see some potential Democratic nominees expressing their support for Medicare for All, which would cast aside the ACA and start all over again with a single government-run health care program into which every American would be enrolled, I worry that the candidates are playing directly into the hands of Trump. Molly, a good point?
No, it is definitely a good point. I think what we need to do is stay focused on talking about healthcare costs and whether or not the people running for president want to talk about Medicare for All or not. You really need to talk about healthcare costs. That's what we saw in the midterm, right? So lowering prescription drug prices, protecting people with pre-existing conditions. That's what voters care about. I think they care a lot less about labels, and whoever wins the nomination will just have defined the debate on that.
Mm-hmm. And then this week, Senator Elizabeth Warren, got
They have at the bottom of the screen that he works for DLA Piper, which is a lobbying firm. And it's known for being a swampy, gross, corrupt, evil, greedy, motherfucking lobbying firm. Super chat, I cursed again. So, swear jar. So, this is from, it's not hard to find this. Unfortunately, we don't have any reporters in this country that actually look. So, this is from just a quick Google search, Biz Journals, bizjournal.com. DLA Piper. Here we go. The Washington Post reports 3 of DLA Piper's healthcare lobbyists have left to form Sirona Strategies, a new healthcare consulting group that will specialize in healthcare business policy, regulatory, legislative, and communication strategy. The founders include Krista Drobach, Kristen Ratcliffe, and Vanessa Kramer. The firm, which takes its name from the Celtic goddess of health, will be independent, but will partner with Aiken Grump's health policy team, the Post reports. So here you have DLA Piper, healthcare lobbyists. They are healthcare lobbyists. And who do they lobby for? Take a guess. Just take a guess. Drobach and Ratcliffe, these were the lobbyists that were leaving DLA Piper. Drobach and Ratcliffe have represented health insurers and pharmaceutical companies, including Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Pfizer, and the Alliance for Connected Care, a group of pharmacies and healthcare companies lobbying for greater access to telemedicine services. So, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Pfizer, you get the drill here, folks. So CNN, to, I don't know what you would call that, debate, reflect, examine whether Medicare for All is feasible, as a Republican healthcare lobbyist whose firm actively lobbies for the healthcare industry, including Aetna and other big pharma companies, insurers. But, I mean, that's not surprising that a Republican would be against for Medicare for All. But how can you ethically, I'm talking to you, CNN, how could you ethically have a Republican on how could he actually credibly or even objectively assess whether Medicare for All is feasible in the Democratic primary or America when his very making a living is based on making sure Medicare for All never happens? Would you call that a conflict of interest? Would you call that dishonest to your audience? Would you call that propaganda? But that's not it. So, and by the way, I don't know the Republican. I'm sure he's just your average, card-carrying, Second Amendment toting idiot Republican. But then you have this nice woman. I don't have anything against her. Molly Mitchell. A quick Google search. She's the director of what's this place called? Hamilton Place Strategies. Hamilton Place Strategies, which is a big PR firm. Now, what does this PR firm do? This is an article from The Intercept. Hamilton Place is most widely known for going to bat for Wall Street. Shocker. Major trade associations and big banks are some of the firm's largest clients. Fratto, who is a Treasury Department spokesperson under George W. Bush, and this is Tony Fratto, who founded Hamilton Place Strategies, frequently pops up in financial regulation-related stories, scoffing at the need for new rules on the big banks. In 2016, Fratto was one of the biggest opponents of the 21st Century Glass-Steagall Act, which would have imposed a firewall separating investment banks that engage in trading activity from the commercial banks that take deposits. Fratto has been one of the most consistent backers of the Export-Import Bank, which facilitates cheap loans for foreign deals with U.S. multinationals. Hamilton Place created Exporters from Exim, an ad hoc group of companies seeking to turn the cheap lending spigot back on. In 2013, Hamilton Place released a report called Banking on Our Future, the Value of Big Banks in a Global Economy. Oh my God, I want to vomit. A more recent report in July 2017 pronounced big banks safe and sound. Yeah, until the student loan bubble burst, which is coming up, folks. In short, Hamilton Place is a full-service support staff for Wall Street banks, parroting their arguments at every turn for years. And now, one of the partners is doing communication for a possible presidential candidate. This article was on somebody from that firm working for Howard Schultz's totally momentous, scorching hot, so popular presidential campaign. Howard Schultz. Which, by the way, I had a s'mores frappuccino the other day because I was feeling a little bougie. it was delicious. I'm not going to lie. So thank you, Howard, for overpriced, really bad for you, iced milk, creamy, whatever the fuck is in a Frappuccino. I shouldn't be having it. It's very bad for me, but I like them. So you have this director for Hamilton Place on to talk about the feasibility for Medicare for All. Well, look in the fine print, okay? Hamilton Place is basically a PR firm that bends over and gives figurative favors for big banks. Well, what do you know many big banks that are rallying for Medicare for All? Why do you think big banks don't want Medicare for All? Well, big banks have a lot of investors. And what are those investors invested in? A lot of fossil fuel companies, a lot of tech startups, a lot of real estate projects, and a lot of pharmaceutical companies and healthcare companies. And those pharmaceutical companies and those healthcare companies exist not to provide you good healthcare, not to make sure that you could get, healthcare for, pre-existing conditions, mental health issues, dental, vision, hearing, catastrophe coverage, you name it. They're not actually in the business of making sure you get the health care you need or get the preventative care you need. They're in the business of making sure they could deprive you of that so they could maximize profit. So that's what the big banks are invested in. And that's also the big banks are all invested in these fossil fuel projects. Projects like the pipelines, Dakota Access, Keystone, Rover, Trans-Pecos, Atlantic Coast, Mountain Valley, and on we go. So you might not see, it might not be mentioned in the article, oh, Hamilton Place they're all for the banks. Well, the banks are very much against Medicare for All because that would squeeze investment money and profit maximization. So CNN, and I tweeted about this early, not to toot my own horn, but I'll just read you my own tweet. CNN, this is how CNN propaganda works. Toss a GOP lobbyist, in this case Charlie Dent, whose firm lobbied for Aetna Blue Cross. Toss him with a Democrat PR director, Molly Mitchell, whose firm loves banks, big banks, all invested in big pharmaceutical companies. Step 2, don't disclose it. Why bother disclosing their conflicts of interest, their financial motives to go on CNN for the next 2.5 minutes and pretend Medicare for All? It's just not feasible. Of course it's not feasible. 70% of Americans want it. 80-something% of the Democratic Party polled want it. 52% of Republicans polled want it. But of course, it's just not feasible. And then have the duo discuss the feasibility of Medicare for All. And by the way, do you know how long it took me to figure out how to clip this? Jen and I were on the phone. I mean, she's a lot smarter with tech than I. But I just downloaded this program to try and be able to clip segments like this from CNN and other places to expose the corporate propaganda. But boy, did it take me a long time to do that. So this is why it's not just the polls that are screwed. It's not just the polls that are concocted. It's not just the poll numbers that they're fudging. It's everything. Everything. And this is a big reason, by the way. This is a big reason why I started Status Quo in the first place. Not just we try to do two big things with very limited staff, help us grow, statusquo.com. We're not just in business to get out in the field and cover the stories that no one else is covering. That is a huge part of what we do. But we're also in business to expose the corporate media. And some of you might say, well, we already know this, so why bother? Because not everyone does. And the more you expose this, the more it gets out. The more people, the more CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the more exposure of the deception they're putting out there, the propaganda they're putting out there, the wildly out of context polls and segments like that, where at the very least, the anchor should be saying, the Democratic strategist, her firm does business with big banks who have investments in the health insurance industry. The Republican strategist is a lobbyist whose firm lobbies for these healthcare companies. So at least the viewer knows, hey, these two, they're in the bag for the corrupt, greedy insurance companies and health insurance companies. So maybe I should take this with a grain of salt. Maybe what I'm getting isn't accurate. And then you have to ask, well, why is CNN? Is there no advocates of Medicare for All available on a Sunday to go on national television? On the Democrat side, we know the Republican, get somebody who's against Medicare for All if you need to have both sides. But is there nobody available? Because I know a lot of reputable people with large followings that are for Medicare for All, know the numbers, know the data, know the trends, know it all, who would be available. But CNN doesn't seem interested in having those people. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So I'll cover more of this, and I will keep, doing the painstaking work of watching CNN, of watching MSNBC, of reading the New York Times, of reading the Washington Post, so you don't have to. So remember to press the like button if you have not. And before I move on to the last topic of today, I want to give you a little update. It is May 13th, so we are basically in the middle of May, halfway through. And Status Coup is growing. We are growing. We just passed 400 Status Coup members. So we're now at 406. Maybe we're a little higher since I've been recording. That's 406 paid Status Coup members. Our goal for the end of this month is 450. Obviously, we'd like to get to 500, but we also want to be realistic. So we want to get to 450 by the end of May, which gives us a little over half of the month left. Now, you know the drill. To become a Status Coup member, all you got to do is go to statuscoup.com/join, and there are options. We tried to make it very simple. $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, or $179 annually. We want to sweeten the pot. We want to sweeten the pot to, make it a little sweeter for you to become a member. Obviously, we want you to become a member because you believe in our vision. You want to support us so we could get out in the field. You want to help us grow our funding so we could hire, top of my list, we want to hire another reporter. Top of my list, we want to hire a marketing person because I would like, and Jen would like, we would like to move Jen over a little bit more away from marketing and more to journalism because Jen is a great researcher. She's a good writer. And we want her spending a lot of her time. Yes, she'll always help with the business element. She's a co-founder of Status Coup, and she's going to always be helping us grow. But we want to use one of her major strengths, which is research, finding out where the bodies are buried, and breaking stories on corruption and injustice. So we want to hire a full-time reporter. We want to hire a full-time marketing and business development person, which would allow Jen to move over a lot more to the journalism side. But that takes money, and we are not prostituting ourselves for special interest money, for corporate money, and for the money from the oligarchy. So it's a little harder when you do it the right way, but a lot more rewarding when you do it the right way as well. So, again, our membership goal is $450 for the end of this month. And to make it a little sweeter, all new $5 monthly members will get Status Coup stickers. So that goes for $5 members. And that goes for $10 members. So you can become a Status Coup member. That's statuscoup.com/join at the $5 level or the $10 level, and you'll get a sticker. And for annual members, that's the $179 annual members, we're also going to give Status Coup mugs away. Status Coup mugs, just nickels and dimes. We're giving away mugs for the annual membership because the mugs cost us more to purchase. So if hopefully, with or without the swag, you'll want to become a Status Coup member. But if you if this sweetens the pot, no pun intended, coffee pot, $5 a month, you'll get the sticker, and annual $179 annually, you will get the mug. And by the way, you're not just supporting us. I do bonus behind the scenes videos. There's a few up that I just uploaded at Status Coup. Once you become a member, then you click on member content on the site and you get all that. bonus content. And Ty, he's just finishing some fine tuning. We had to even out the sound on the documentary, which takes a lot of time to fix audio problems. So once he's done with that, he's going to be focusing a lot more on creating exclusive content just for members. So I really hope, if you've been on the fence, if you were waiting for that tax return, if you got $5 a month to support real journalism, or $10 a month. Obviously, we appreciate all levels, but $10 a month is higher than $5 a month. And, you could do $20 a month too. You get a little bit more at each level. We're also going to be doing our monthly Zoom call, I think this week. I'm just going to finalize it with Jen. And that's usually it's for $10 members, but we're going to do it for everyone this month, just so the $5 members could get a taste of what it's like. And if you like it, you could bump up to $10 a month to get on that monthly call. That's a video call where myself, sometimes Jen, we talk directly to you and answer your questions, comments, concerns. It's very casual, and I usually have a bad case of TMI, telling you things I shouldn't. So we're going to do that probably this week, if not definitely next week, our monthly video call, and we have some other things in the works too. So become a member, statuscoup.com/join. Help us move that meter up. Right now we're at 406. Next goal, end of May, 450, and then hopefully 500. And by the way, these go with our patrons. So we have 300. Right now we got 329 patrons. So we don't want to forget about our patrons. We combined with membership, 406 plus 329. I can't do the math, but it's a little over 700. So 700 total monthly/annual members. So lastly, could I do a segment? Could I do this non-live stream without calling out Joe Biden's he must really be so arrogant that he knows, oh boy, is there a frickin' Hall of Fame Rolodex and archive of corrupt, racist, awful things I've said, and just say, well, it's not going to matter. I got the money. I got the special interest, and old people don't care. So, whatever. So, this clip came out a couple days ago, and Justice Democrats, I think, put it out. And here's Joe Biden just openly talking about being, if you give him $250,000, he'll give you the world. Here we go.
Lobbyists aren't bad people. Special interest groups are not bad. Lobbyists aren't bad people. Special interest groups are not bad people. But guess what? They're corrosive. People who accept money from them aren't bad people. But it's human nature. You go out, Lynn, and bundle $250,000 for me, all legal, and then you call me after I'm elected and say, Joe, I'd like to come and talk to you about something. You didn't buy me, but it's human nature. You helped me. I'm going to say, sure, Lynn, come on in.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? You didn't buy me, Lynn. You helped me raise $250,000? You didn't buy me, but sure, come on in. So if he's saying that he wasn't bought by the person who helped raise $250,000 for him, he must say, he rented me. He rented me. I can't be bought, but I could be rented or financed or layaway. You get my point? Too harsh? I mean, the walking contradictions of this man. And I gotta be honest with you, and some people aren't gonna like what I'm about to say, but I really am starting to feel it. I think Joe Biden's worse than Hillary Clinton. I mean, it's really comparing like rotten apples to rotten oranges. But there's just there's a much longer record. Hillary Clinton was only in the Senate for 7 years. Joe Biden was in the Senate for 2 decades, I believe. And Joe Biden was in public life. I think he was starting in the late 1970s, early 80s. I mean, she was just a lawyer. So she has a terrible record, and there's a lot of bad things about her dating back to the 70s. But I'm talking about a political record. He's got a much longer record than Hillary Clinton. I don't think, he's also a warmonger too. I think she has him by a couple miles on the warmongering, but he's still a warmonger. But, the more you see, this video of him, he's openly talking about being bought. What he's talking about is being bought. If you help raise a lot of money for me, yeah, come on in. You'll have my ear. So here's the difference, okay? So Status Quo, we're a company. We're not like a charity. We're a company. So we don't, we're raising money from viewers, right? So there was a viewer who gave $5,000 to our GoFundMe. That viewer chose to be anonymous, so I never said who it was. But I reached out to that viewer after he gave $5,000 to try and get him on the phone. Because I wanted to personally thank him. That's an incredible amount of money to give to a media startup. I was just curious, like, what made you do it? What kind of stuff do we do that makes you that dedicated and passionate about Status Quo? I wanted to know because it's good to know what's registering with the people. Not for my ego, but to know what should we do more of. Obviously, if somebody's willing to give that much money. I was never able to get in touch with him, but the difference is if that viewer is giving $5,000 to us, you're damn right I want to talk to him. I'm open to a story or two he's interested in us covering, or she, if it was a woman. I'm not going to be on the road and covering a story and then that person calls me and say, hey, Lee Flint, I want you to do this. No, I'm not talking about that. They're not going to set our editorial decisions. But if somebody's going to give us $5,000 and help us grow, of course I'd be open to if they are interested in us covering a story or this and that. But that's a media company. You know what I mean? And that's from a viewer. We're not talking about from Goldman Sachs. We're not talking about from Big Pharma. We're not talking about Silicon Valley. We're not talking about real estate developers. We're not talking about the big banks. You're talking about from an actual viewer. So yes, if a viewer gives $5,000 to us, I am open to, if you have a story suggestion or this and that. I would always say I can't guarantee anything, and I would never ever let viewers or even investors dictate our day-to-day. But this is okay for a company funded by the people. When you're a politician and you're openly saying, well, if you help raise $500,000, if you help us raise $250, and you want to run something by me, hey, come on in, open door policy. Do you think whatever that person wants to run by Joe Biden is just some innocent, I'd like to know your thoughts about planting a tree in Israel? Of course not. They want something from Joe Biden. You want to know something? He's going to give it to them so he could get their money for the next election and the next pet project. That's how it works. And he just openly told you so. So Joe Biden's corrupt. And he could say in one breath, he didn't buy me, but yeah, I'm open to him coming in. Well, what do you call that? Of course it's being bought. But I'd rather be bought by actual people that are funding us, viewers, than special interests or wealthy plutocrats. Yeah, you could buy me, the viewers. I'm only open to what the viewers want and think. And a viewer could give me a hell of a lot of money. And if they want me to cover something that doesn't really align with our values or doesn't really fit our wheelhouse, then I'm going to respectfully say, yeah, I'll look into it, but I'm not going to guarantee you that I'm actually going to do something on it. So, that's the deal. Joe Biden's corrupt. But it doesn't end there. So, Joe Biden in New Hampshire today, fresh off his fake 18-point lead, if you were watching earlier, Joe Biden really did a bang-up job of dressing up his role and the actual effects of the crime bill. So this is Joe Biden today in New Hampshire on the crime bill.
Some of you old enough, I got made fun of because they said Biden's spending money not fighting crime on prevention. And they had these ads of people dancing in tutus, these big guys, and that's all Biden, midnight basketball, all that stuff. Second piece of it was a significant investment in dealing with rational gun policy without violating the Second Amendment. We eliminated assault weapons. We were in a position where we limited the number of bullets to be in a magazine, background checks that hadn't occurred before, etc. And the third thing was the Violence Against Women Act. But in the process of that, we also set up drug courts so that we could divert people. They should be in treatment, not in jail. In treatment, not in jail. Secondly, we should be in a position where we invest a great deal more, not only in the research to be able to get better meds to deal with you, and or whatever that problem is, but we should be engaging in a way where we invest the community in being able to have the resources to provide for this treatment and prevention positions. And I can lay out, if you give me a name, I'll send you a layout for you exactly what all that means and how you do it programmatically. But I am so proud of you. I really am.
Wow. That sounds a lot different. That sounds a lot different than Senator Joe Biden, who was drafting the crime bill. Here's Senator Joe Biden in 1993. See if you detect a little difference in tone.
Take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I give myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. I'm the guy that said, rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it. And even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But there is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malfactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change the behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. But we would be being
in jail.
Stupid as a society.
They are in jail, away from my mother. And happy Mother's Day, by the way. Belated Mother's Day to all the brave and wonderful mothers in our audience. And see, the police, they're coming for Biden. They're coming for Biden. The past of Joe Biden is coming. And the police are coming for Joe Biden. To give him a high five, because they are racist like that too. So, I mean, When I was at the Young Turks, they used to do headlines like Extreme Makeover, Hillary Clinton edition. It's now Extreme Makeover Joe Biden. Extreme Makeover Joe Biden edition. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. He's in New Hampshire now, the elder statesman, talking very soft, about the good parts about the crime bill. When, in 1993, Senator Joe Biden drafting the crime bill, throw him in the cell, light a fire, and make some s'mores out of him. That's essentially what he was saying back then. And remember, this isn't the only awful thing Joe Biden has said. This one wasn't on tape. Joe Biden about desegregation and, making amends to African Americans. When Joe Biden was a freshman in the mid-1970s, senator, his home state of Delaware, like other hotspots across the country, was engulfed in a bitter battle over school busing, debating whether children should be sent to schools in different neighborhoods to promote racial diversity. Biden took a lead role in the fight, speaking out repeatedly and forcefully against sending white children to majority black schools and black children to majority white schools. He played down the persistence of overt racism and suggested that the government should have a limited role in the integration. Quote, I do not buy the concept popular in the 60s, which said, we have suppressed the black man for 300 years, and the white man is now far ahead in the race for everything our society offers. In order to even the score, we must now give the black man a head start or even hold the white man back to even the race, Biden told a Delaware-based weekly newspaper in 1975. I don't buy that. To even the race? How about just allow the black man and woman to start the race at the same level, at the same point? And you want to know something, folks? Straight up, and this is a controversial thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's a certain percentage of older African-American voters who vote Democratic Party, the establishment Democrat, no matter what, that are not gonna that are gonna hear these things and are gonna look the other way. Or CNN and the corporate media will have successfully, manufactured consent that Biden's the only one that could beat Trump. And as a result, those older African-American voters say, you know what, we don't like some of the things he said, but we got to beat Trump, and he's who can beat him. Which, as I've reported and I've shown you, is complete BS. Bernie Sanders has the strongest chance against Trump, specifically in Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, which I believe the next president will win based on those states, again, like Trump was victorious in 2016. But, the hits are going to keep going, because there are journalists right now, and I know some of them, that are actively going back in the 80s and 90s of Joe Biden's old C-SPAN speeches and doing that treacherous work of going back to find clips like that of Joe Biden basically sounding like a country club Klansman. Because it's not like it goes beyond white privilege. It's racist. His policies, specifically the crime bill, are racist. So was welfare reform, which he championed. The repeal of Glass-Steagall, which led to the housing global financial crash in 2008, disproportionately victimized black Americans. So whatever way you want to slice it, and CNN's not going to tell the truth on this, and MSNBC's not going to tell the truth on it, the New York Times is not going to tell the truth on it, Washington Post certainly isn't. It's up to Bernie and the other candidates to a lesser degree to set the record straight and say, Joe Biden, you could say what you want now, and you could hug Obama and the fact that you were his vice president for dear life, but your policies were racist and your rhetoric was racist. And I think Bernie Sanders needs to be forceful as he is calling Donald Trump a racist. If he doesn't want to call Joe Biden a racist, that's up to him. But he needs to clearly talk about how Joe Biden's policies as a senator and the policies he favored as a vice president harm black people. And it's not racist dog whistling. It's the truth. So I'm sure I'll have more on Joe Biden because every day, I mean, between Twitter and the video clips that come out, and who knows what else is going to come out of skeletons in Uncle Joe's closet, I'm sure we'll have more. So that's it for today. I will be back tomorrow. Remember, we are actively trying to get to 450 members by the end of this month. So that gives us a little over the month. We're at 406 now. So can we get another 44 breathing, living viewers of Status Quo who want a media revolution and want to fund it? Be part of the media revolution. Jen and I and Ty, we are in active discussions about how to broaden this out, how to get the funding we need to make this a lot bigger. We've done a miraculous job, I will say, thanks to you, in just 1 year and a month in existence. So a little over a year, we're past 40,000 subscribers. We've got over 700 paid monthly / annual members when you combine website membership and Patreon. And we're trying to grow even more because we want to hire another reporter and get a lot more going as far as more staff, more reporters, better technology, and we definitely want more money to get in the field and cover the stories that no one else is, including the campaign. Well, people are covering the campaign, but do it in a way that you know us for. Aggressive, authentic, and keeping it real. Thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. Remember, statusquo.com/join. Sign up for our email list at Status Quo. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.